Greetings and welcome to the Mega Meeple. This is my February 2019 vlog. And just talking about what's going on or what happened this past month in February. But before we do that, let's take care of all the logistical stuff and rip that band-aid off. If you haven't already, hit that little subscribe button, a little belly thingy and stuff like that, and subscribe. And if you want to listen to the podcast or follow me on any other social media crap, just go to the website www.themegameeple.com. All the information is right there, and then we have a Patreon page, and I'm going to get into that a little bit in a bit. So if you want to help support the channel and help me be able to produce more polished videos. See if I get an editor to deal with this crap. Just go to our Patreon page. There's different tiers and levels, and you get a little rewards and some stuff that you benefit from, other than just listening to the podcast and watching the videos and stuff like that. So all right. Got that out of the way. Rip that right off. Okay. February 2019, I getting into gear. I talked about last month of starting my horror movie review style YouTube channel. I got that set up. I'm getting ready to launch the very first video. I've been messing around with different voice characterizations. Because I'm not going to be on camera, I'm just going to do all voice narrations. And for stuff like that, it's almost like a podcast style thing. That I want to be engaging and entertaining just with the inflection of my voice. So I've been trying different voice, characterizations. I think I found one that fits the theme of what I'm doing there. So I'm going to launch that here. Looking at this weekend to do that. So. We'll see how well that goes over. I already got a few subscribers. I've been getting interacting with people over on a Twitter feed that I have for the channel. And actually, I think I've already gotten like 40 some followers on there. So just interacting with people over there, sharing stuff, so it's pretty doing pretty well over there. Now, one of the things that brings that up is, okay, well, how is that going to affect my schedule and consistency with the Mega Meeple, primarily the podcast. For almost 2 years now, I've done a weekly podcast. I have missed a week or two, primarily just for maybe holiday stuff or sickness or whatever. But there's been very few weeks that I've missed. It's been very, very consistent, weekly podcast all the time. So with now me focusing more and getting the horror YouTube channel up and going and getting some momentum there, I may consider just cutting that time in half and switching to a bi-weekly type thing. So, or maybe not do as many guests on the show as I have been. I've pretty much been. That's another thing I've been doing consistently for the past 2 years is getting a guest on almost every episode. That's been quite an undertaking there. So maybe do one episode where it's just me and a guest, and the second episode, just me talking or something like that. Or if I keep it on a weekly rotation, just not have as many guests on the show. So maybe one or maybe two out of the episodes per month will have a guest on it. The rest will be just simply me talking about stuff, reviewing stuff, that type of thing. So give me your feedback. Sound off in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about that. Any preferences one way or another. So we'll see how, and if it doesn't work out, I'll adjust my schedule and plans and stuff like that. So we'll try certain things and see how it works out. And if it works, keep at it. And what doesn't work, throw that out. So anyway, also another thing I've been thinking of, talking about as if my schedule is not bad enough, whether or not I've been seeing some people doing some live streams, some live chats on YouTube and or Facebook, and just wanted to put that out there as far as if that's something that any of you would be interested in watching and interacting with me on. Doing a sort of like a YouTube live chat or live stream. I don't know what's it there. I think they're basically the same thing. But if that's something that you'd be interested in watching and interacting with me on, also put that in the comments down below. And yes, and as far as getting back on Patreon stuff, I've typically, if you listen to the podcast, I have spouted both Pod Pledge and Patreon. Pretty much up till now, the tiers and the support that I've had on there have been identical. The tiers that or levels of support that you find on Patreon is exactly the same ones on Pod Pledge. It's basically which ones people prefer, and it has been made obvious to me, looking over the past year, that people prefer Patreon. Because as far as Pod Pledge goes, and I don't know, maybe Patreon's a more well-known platform. It's been around longer. Pod Pledge is kind of new, not too new. I mean, Christ, I've been on there for 2 years. Well, here's the thing. I've gotten absolutely no donations or support on Pod Pledge. In fact, they used to do a YouTube stream chat where they would pick a topic and do a chat and talk about how to grow your channel and some practical advice. And it's been, criminy sakes, I would say close to 9 or 10 months since they've done anything like that. So I'm really not getting any benefit or use out of Pod Pledge. So I think after 2 years of zero return on any effort or time and energy I've put into doing that, I'm just going to drop it. So now I am strictly on Patreon as far as any support goes. Yeah, because I've had far more support and donations on Patreon than I have on Pod Pledge. So that's the one that's getting the traction. That's the one I'm going to go with. So that's it. Sorry, Chaz. All right, Kickstarters. What have I received? Well, the most recent thing I've received on Kickstarter is and I'm not going to bring the box up because the box is massive, is Hate, the Adrian Smith board game by Simon. This is the game that has a mature adult rating. It is one of those Kickstarter. The entire game was a Kickstarter exclusive. And pretty much, if you didn't get in on a Kickstarter, unless there's a retailer near you that also pledged on it, that they got their copy and they'll be selling from them, so if you see the game on the shelf of one of your game stores, it's not that Simon is sending it to retailers or selling it on retail. It's because that particular store backed the Kickstarter and they received the game and they're selling it on to you. That's how that worked. That is the only way that any retailer was able to get the game, or any backers was able to get the game. At this point, if you want to go get a copy, good luck. Save your pennies because it's aftermarket. You're gonna have to sell your newborn or firstborn, and maybe a leg and an arm, and maybe a few other appendages in order to get it in the aftermarket on eBay or somewhere like that. So. Yeah, so that's good. That stuff is going on for a pretty penny on those platforms. But got that. Now, that game is, I'll do a review of it at some point. It's basically a really vicious skirmish game with massive, badass miniatures. There are some, it is mature audience only. It has a rating on that. But the rule book, it's not overt, but there are some profanity and F-bombs in the rule book that they drop, and the cards and so forth. As far as the nudity and stuff like that, it actually is dependent upon which tribe you play. One or two tribes may be more overt in their miniatures and card art that that contains nudity. Pretty much most of the cards, there's very few cards or tribes that you go through their deck that doesn't have some kind of violence and stuff depicted on it. And the whole thing about the whole torture and cannibalism, it's not really an active mechanic in it. It's more like an afterthought. It's those things actually occur during what's called the intermission phase, which is pretty much an upkeep phase. It's after the battle, and you're licking your wounds, so to speak, finding out who's wounded, how bad they're wounded, who's dead, how bad they're dead, type of thing. And you have an aspect of the upkeep phase where, and they don't call it an upkeep phase in the game, they call it an intermission phase, where you take all the captives that you brought back to your camp, and you have a choice of either eating them or torturing them. And, if you eat them, you get a resource. If you torture them, you get a hate token. And the resource and hate tokens, those are things that you are using to upgrade your soldiers, upgrade your village, so you're able to do more things like re-roll your dice, add more dice to your roll, reactivate a soldier figure that's already been activated. So as you upgrade those things and the abilities on your soldiers, that's where those things come into play. So anyway, so far I'm really liking it. I'm loving Hate. So another Kickstarter that arrived not too long ago was Seventh Guest, and oh god. For those of you who saw Tom Vasel's review of this game, yeah, say what you want about whether you agree with Tom Vasel or I don't agree with him a lot of times and blah blah blah. His reviews his review of this game was accurate. It is true. Seventh Guest, as a game, as a board game, and what they did with this board game, sucks. It really sucks. And, if I did a review of it, and can comment, sound off down below. Let me know if you want to see a review of a game, and I can tell you right now, the review is not going to be happy. I think more reviewers need to be free to publicly do negative reviews on things. I mean, I get real. I don't know about you, but if you see a reviewer and all they do is happy reviews, I can see where people get kind of suspicious about that. So I think there needs to be more, negative reviews out there, especially when it's a game that is inherently and intrinsically broken. This is one of those games that I would rank a 1 out of 5 meeples. And if you see my rating, how I rate the different things, 1 to 5 meeples. 1 is a game that sucks and blows at the same time. The only redeeming factor of the game is to recommend it to someone who you hate, just so you could piss them off. So I would rank Seventh Guest as a 1 out of 5 meeple, and it's pushing it, even getting that high. But it is, if you're from the PC game, the original Seventh Guest, if you were a fan of that game, which I think a lot of people who backed that Kickstarter was or is, your childhood memory is getting raped. Whoever designed that game probably never played Seventh Guest back in the day, and they certainly didn't know jack shit about board games. And the other person that they got to do a review of the game, other than Tom Vassell, was a person who gave the game raving reviews. Fantastic. Well, I looked up on this person, and he's not even a board gamer. He does reviews of these escape rooms. That's what his background is. It's not reviewing or playing board games. So he's coming from a not very credible background in history. He's coming from a background that's not even involved in board games. He goes around places and reviews these escape rooms. Well, there's a card and board game called Escape Room or Exit and Unlocked and stuff like that, but it's not the same as doing an actual physical escape room, which is what this guy, who loves Seventh Guest, the board game, so much. You need to really, whether it's a negative review or even happy reviews, you need to really see what kind of background that person has, and whether they even have the frickin' business to even spout their opinions. So, and Seventh Guest is, I wish to hell Restoration Games got a hold of that. I think if Restoration Games and their track record of doing Stop Thief and Fireball Island most recently, and if they got a hold of the Seventh Guest franchise and did they did their magic on it, getting it revamped and modernized, I think it would have been a great game. What came to me is I played it once. I looked at, and I put it in a box with a bunch of stuff that I don't play anymore. Some review copies of games that I didn't care for. And again, maybe I should do a review of it, but it's not going to be a very favorable review. So if that's something people want to see, again, sound off in the comments down below. But yeah, Seventh Guest is a sample of a game that is it's not coming from a negative review of, oh, I didn't like the game, or no, this game is not for me. It's coming from a point of, this game is intrinsically broken. It's bad in and of itself. Now, it can be used. Here's the glass half full type of thing. If you have a family member or somebody who really likes Trivial Pursuit, and they're not really big into board games or hobby games or anything like this stuff here, the more heavy, heavy-weighted stuff, give them a copy of Seventh Guest. I think they'll like it. Just tell them, hey, if you like Trivial Pursuit, here's a game that it's Trivial Pursuit, and it just adds a little something extra to it. I think that is really the only thing that Seventh Guest board game can be used for. And, given to another board gamer that you don't like, just so you could piss them off. So, but that's a different thing. But yeah, if you have a family member that's not into board games, but they like Trivial Pursuit, Yeah, they might like Seventh Guest, because that's basically what the board game is. It is Trivial Pursuit with the Seventh Guest name slapped on top of it. That's basically what it is. Also, Chronicles of Crime updated their app to include the Cases for the Noir expansion. So getting to play some of those cases. That game introduced some new mechanics in it. It's a different take, different theme, environment, that type of thing. But again, it's just as good as the core box of Chronicles of Crime and those sets of cases. And yes, you do need to have the Noir expansion physical set in order to play the cases on the app. So as far as other Kickstarters, I guess the next thing that I'm really looking forward to is U-Boot, however you pronounce it. People over in Germany and Asia and Europe have already gotten their, or starting at least to get their copies. The U.S. and Americas are going to start getting their copies. I'd say based on the Kickstarter comments and updates, they're saying I'd say early April. Now at this point, the app hasn't been released yet. They have like a beta version of it, and it's only available on Android. They do have the app for iOS, but it's still going through Apple's, approval process. So even if the game did show up at the doorstep now, the finalized app is not in its, polished final form to play the game, other than a few, tutorial stuff that you could play with it. But as far as the actual missions and all the aspects that involve those missions, that's not quite yet finished on the app. So yeah, if I have to wait until in the middle of April, end of April to get my copy, that's fine. That gives them just that much longer to finish the app and get Apple to finish their approval process. So that's the next game that I'm really looking forward to. Now, as far as the podcast goes, upcoming, my guest for March that's coming up is first off is a guy by the name of Rob Thompson, and he's going to be talking about Gardens of Babylon, a very successful Kickstarter just finished up not too long ago, and he's one of the publishers, so he's going to be talking about that. Also, had a really, really great interview with a guy by the name of Steve Spahn. He is with Able Gamers. Now, we primarily focus on board games here, but a lot of board gamers still play video games. In fact, that's how a lot of us came into board gaming, by way of video games. But Steve Spahn is the COO of Able Gamers, and it's a charity where they provide controllers, and they're basically custom-made controllers for physically disabled people, so that they are able to have access and ability to play video games in spite of their physical disabilities. So that was a really great interview that's coming up here in a few weeks on the podcast. So if you haven't already, go over to the website, subscribe there, or better yet, go to iTunes or your favorite podcast streaming service, however you listen to podcasts. I know I'm on iTunes, so if you do iTunes, if you're an Apple guy, make sure to go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast there. While you're there, put out some 5-star loving, as I say, and review. It really helps. Now that really helps out with getting the podcast up and noticeable in the search engines and stuff for Apple. But if you go to any of the podcast streaming services, do a search for Mega Meeple. Chances are I'm in there somewhere. So make sure you go there and subscribe so you could hear that episode when it comes out. And I guess the last thing to say is, if you notice, I'm in a different. I didn't really move. I just moved from one room to the other. I used to be in our quote dining room, which is over there. It was too small, or the table was too big for the space. A few weeks ago, we basically moved the gaming table from the dining room area to our living area. I'm actually looking at our TV and our fireplace right here. And plus too, so it gives more room around the gaming table for people to, move around and, slide out of their chairs and stuff like that. But it also gives more room for more shelves. More shelves. Yeah, I could put another shelf right here. There's a section over there, the wall that's pretty empty that we need to put a shelf over there. Yeah, so that justifies more games. Yeah, so see, there's a method to my madness. So anyway, what's coming up? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope to do the live stream. That's where I need you guys and girls to sound off on that. Let me know what you think. You want to see a live stream? Maybe do like once a month, see what happens. Also, as far as the schedule and the regularity of the podcast, I'm going to do. I want to keep it at a weekly basis. If we do that, I won't be not every episode's going to have a guest on it. It may just be me babbling around, or if I have one of my friends over, I may break out the microphone, and if they're okay being with it. So you might just hear me and one other person talking about a topic, or you just might hear me talking to myself about a topic. And that's another thing that I need you guys and girls to sound off about, is if there's any topics that you want to hear about, sound off in the comments down below. Do just cut back and just do on a bi-weekly thing. Either way, I'm going to create more time and free time and opportunity for me to focus on getting my horror YouTube channel going up pretty soon. So, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for watching. Again, go to the website and follow me on any of the social media stuff. Again, go to the Patreon. I think I've already deleted my Pod Pledge page, so don't bother going there because it doesn't exist anymore. If you want to support the show, go to Patreon. And then as far as YouTube here, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and a little belly thing or however the hell YouTube is doing it anymore. From one month to another, they make these changes and stuff and don't tell anybody. And the next time you log into your channel or your account, it's like, oh wow, that's different. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and hope you guys had a great February. Hope March is just as good, if not better. I know here in Charlotte, we usually, it's been nice it's been in the high 60s, almost 70 degrees, but there's the month of March, it usually hits us with at least one ice storm. Just when you think it was safe to put away your winter coats, we get hit with a bad ice storm for about 2 or 3 days, and then it goes back to normal. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on one of the other videos here on the channel, or I'll talk at you at the next podcast. Later.